all bikes are great. When fixies were a big thing, I was thinking the next big thing will be high bikes because it doesn't even have a chain. Because simplicity is what I like.
Welcome to Tell Me About Your Bike, the podcast about the meaning of life, the universe, and bicycling. I'm your host, Wesley Cheney, and today I've got the second half of my interview with one of the original bike podcasters, Jon Winston. I got a chance to catch up with Jon in his hometown of San Francisco, California, and we sat next to the bay and talked about bikes and bicycling and podcasting and just had a great conversation. So I wanted to share the second half of that with you. And Jon and I talk about maintenance schedules and what we like in a bike and what makes for a good ride and utility cycling and vehicular cycling and just a whole bunch of good stuff. So take a listen now to Jon Winston, the founder of Bikescape podcast, which was one of the original podcasts back in 2005, as we talk about cycling in San Francisco. Do you name your bikes?
No.
Okay. Do your kids name their bikes?
My daughter used to call her bike Magenta.
Okay.
For some reason. That's the color of the bike.
All right. What's the next ride you're looking forward to?
The next ride I'm looking forward to? I don't really do rides so much. I mean, today we're going on a ride.
Yeah.
But I think I'm a utilitarian cyclist. I just go to Trader Joe's and I load up on food and I drag it home. Mm-hmm. Or I take the dog. I put my dog in my Timbuktu bag. He's a little dog.
Okay.
We go to the beach. And, that kind of stuff. I haven't been across the bridge in a couple of years.
Okay.
And that's where the roadies like to go. There's a big loop through Marin County. You go across the bridge and there's a big loop, maybe about 50 miles you can do.
Ooh.
That's just beautiful. And if you were here longer, and I was on the Bridgestone, I would say let's try it.
Yeah.
I get range anxiety on rides like that.
And for those who don't know, what is range anxiety? That's
when you're on an electric vehicle and you're worried about running out of juice before you get home.
Yeah, okay. So I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Road or trail or gravel?
I think road for me.
Okay.
I mean, I like big tires though.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, the Bridgestone came with skinny tires.
Right.
But I put fatter tires on it with a little bit of knob on it.
Yeah.
Because I guess that makes it a gravel bike, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. What makes a great bike?
Well, I keep, like I said, all bikes are great. I used to be into lightness. I think I steer away from carbon and aluminum.
Yeah.
I prefer steel probably because of my age, but I still like it to be light. I like to be able to just put it over my shoulder. Something I can't do with the Gazelle.
No.
The Gazelle has its drawbacks, but the Bridgestone was nice that way. I like a bike that is light and easy to carry around and responsive.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be high performance. It doesn't have to be a felt for me. I mean, I would love to have a felt, but it doesn't have to be like that. It just has to be pleasant to ride.
And what makes for a great ride?
I guess nice weather, good friends.
Okay.
And I like going slow.
Yeah.
And I guess my most recent ride was a couple of years, 3 or 4 years ago, actually, that I really had a good time. We mixed riding with taking the train and taking the ferry across the bay.
Uh-huh.
We ended up in Petaluma, about 60 miles north of here.
Oh, okay.
And I brought the Gazelle, but I had the motor turned off the whole time because I was with normal people who ride analog bikes.
Right.
And it was just beautiful. We just went down some roads we'd never been on and looked at birds. We brought binoculars and did some birding and stayed in a hotel overnight. And that was my idea of a great ride. I mean, I think other people might say that, I covered 100 miles or I beat my personal best at this or that, but I just like to ride slow and talk fast.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about the last time you were lost on a bike.
Oh my God, you don't get lost anymore. You're never lost. You always have your phone with you.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been lost.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So going to get a little techie now, a little wonky. When it comes to drivetrains, do you prefer 1x12, 3x9, 1x1?
I like simplicity, which is totally negated by this Gazelle, but that's why I like the Fixie.
Yeah.
It was 1x1, and for a while I had the perfect ratio, so I could not go too fast, not go too slow.
Right.
To get up these steep hills here, we had to have a low ratio.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite. I guess 3x6 is that what?
Okay.
I guess is what I had on the. They're all good. It just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
This Gazelle has 1x18.
Oh, wow.
And it's got an index shifting, and it's almost like driving a car. You have to lay off the pedals when you shift.
Yeah.
Because it just clunks into gear. It takes a little getting used to.
Okay.
They're all bikes are great and all different. They're I could see. When Fixies were a big thing, I was thinking the next big thing will be high bikes because it doesn't even have a chain. Because simplicity is what I like.
Yeah. All right. Rim or disc brakes?
Disc is nice.
Okay.
I like disc in the rain. It's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the only reason I don't like disc brakes is that it gets a little harder to true wheels. Without the brakes there to rub against. But
are you a mechanic?
Not much of one. I can do my own stuff, but there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, I know how to do this in theory, and I did it once 3 years ago, but really I'd rather pay somebody who does it once a week to do it right the first time.
Yeah, see, caliber brakes you can adjust easily.
Yes.
And the regular, this has hydraulic.
I don't like hydraulic.
Yeah, it's wonderful for... I never have to. What the thing about the Gazelle is you just have to give up and let other people. You get a flat, you don't fix it.
Yeah.
You just call an Uber. You have to get an Uber Deluxe, huge one. One of those big SUVs.
Yeah.
And just get it home and turn it over at your house, because repair is just a real pain.
And you're running tubeless?
I'm running tube.
You're running tube.
These are tubes.
Okay.
But so it's a pain. I guess that was the nice thing about other bikes that I own is that I just pull over. I have all my tools.
Yeah.
And I can just whip off the tire and put a new tube in. I usually carry a spare tube. And
yeah. When I was setting up, I've got a Surly disc trucker that my partner bought for my birthday last year, and so I got to build it up like just the way I wanted. So I was like, okay, I want mechanical disc brakes. I want to be able to stop quickly on the hills in West Virginia, which are very similar to the hills in San Francisco and Marin County. But I also, if I am 30 miles away with no phone reception, I want to be able to fix my own brake line, and I can't do that with hydraulic.
Yeah.
So that was...
No, I don't. I have a service contract on this bike.
Wow.
I bring it to New Wheel. I'll put in a plug for New Wheel in San Francisco. They have 3 locations now, and it's a great place to buy and maintain and sell your bike.
Okay.
They're just great people, and they're in it for the love. And anyway, I pay, I don't know how much. It just automatically goes withdrawn from my bank account.
Oh, that's great.
I bring it twice a year for a tune-up.
Oh, yeah, wow. Okay.
And they give me a hard time for not lubing my chain enough.
Well, my son is 13 and rides a bike to school in Norfolk, Virginia, which is flat, and it's about 3/4 of a mile. And so I was talking to him, and he said, "Yeah, Dad, I had to lube my chain." I was like, "What's that?" And he had just gotten a new specialized. It's either the Rock Hopper or the Stump Jumper. I forget which is their $600 entry-level mountain bike, but it's got like a 1x9 on it. He said, "Well, it's been raining all past week, and so my chain was kind of rusty." And I was so proud of him for like knowing that he had to lube his chain. And
Yeah, did he carry his own rag in his shop? In his
no,
bag?
no, because it's only 3/4 of a mile, so he doesn't have to. But I was proud of him.
That was the thing about the fixie is chain maintenance was very important on a fixie because
Yes.
it holds your life in its hands.
Yes. Yeah, and if you ignored it and the chain stretched out, then you ended up having to replace the entire
I put a
drivetrain.
new chain on every 3 months.
Oh.
Every few hundred miles, I put a new chain on.
Better than me.
And I didn't use the universal link.
Yeah.
I used the chain breaker to put it together because, you just didn't want your chain to die. It's how I didn't have brakes on that bike.
Yeah.
So that was how I stopped.
Yes. Tube or tubeless?
I've never had tubeless.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm just accustomed to tube.
Yeah. And how about hydraulic or mechanical brakes?
I guess mechanical is fixable.
Yeah.
But I do like the hydraulic, the way they feel and the way I can stop on some steep hills in this town.
Yes.
Brakes are important.
Mechanical or electronic shifting?
I've never had electronic.
Okay.
And so, were we recording when I was talking about the Bridgestone?
No, I don't think so.
I had bar end shifters on that one, and I had to put a new derailleur on, and it went from friction to it went from index shifting to friction. Took some getting used to, but it's good. I'm happy with it. I was happy with it. Yeah, mechanical is better.
Yeah.
I think I never really used. Like I said, I don't spend a lot of money on my bikes except for this.
All right. So friction or index?
I can get used to anything.
Okay.
This bike is index and it works great.
Yeah.
I
I like index when it works, but
Yeah.
when I was setting up my Surly, I put friction on it, friction bar end shifters.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I love it. I can just dial it right in, and it works just right. Okay, clipless or flat pedals?
Well, in the fixie I was riding clipless, but
Okay.
I prefer flat pedals. I like to wear just regular shoes.
Yeah.
I wear waterproof is good. We may need it today. And,
That's true.
I like regular shoes, and I got big flat pedals with what do you call those pedals that have the little cleats on them?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
Everybody
I know.
knows what I'm talking about.
I know. Yeah. Okay, if you had $1 billion, what investments in cycling infrastructure would you make?
I don't know if $1 billion would be enough.
Okay.
But I would. Well, I would have to become a dictator because I would run into so much blowback from the drivers and the and other people. But I would limit the number of cars on the road. I would figure out a way, and I would have protected bike lanes everywhere. I would turn us into Amsterdam.
Okay.
Or I would any northern European city that knows how to do biking correctly. I think we got set back many years ago by the vehicular cyclists. Sorry if there's any vehicular cyclists listening.
Yeah, so
but
tell us what a vehicular cyclist is, because I remember you talking about it on your show, but...
We're all vehicular cyclists. We all ride in traffic. And when you're riding in traffic, you ride like you're a driver of a car. You drive your bike. You don't ride it. And you signal, you're predictable, you follow the line, you stop at the lights, usually, and you drive your bike like you're a car. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Everybody does it when they ride in traffic, but ideally you want to ride your bike like it's a bike. And vehicular cycling is for living in a world where everybody's in a vehicle, and bicycles they obey the rules of vehicles, but they're not vehicles, they're bicycles. Mm-hmm. And I think if you look at northern European cities like Utrecht or Amsterdam or Copenhagen, they all have different kind of infrastructure for bikes, and they don't have a lot of rules. Everybody's very conscious of each other.
Right.
They're signaling. They're aware of each other, and there's unwritten rules I think that they follow. Mm-hmm. But I think the vehicular cycling kind of set things back quite a bit in this country for a good 50 years.
Now, who was I remember you talking about the big proponent for vehicular cycling, and I want to say he was out of the University of California at...
was it Davis? I don't know.
Davis, yeah, because that's the one that was
designed with bicycles and pedestrians in mind.
Well, that wasn't John Forrester. You're thinking about John Forrester, the father of vehicular. He wrote the book. What was the name of the book? It's the Bible of vehicular cyclists.
Yeah.
And he basically said the bicycles fare best when they behave as cars or something like that. And I think there was a professor at Davis that made a trip to Europe. There's actually a war on cars. No, there's another plug for another video stream, the video channel to look at is Not Just Bikes.
Okay.
If you've ever seen that, and there's a long 40-minute episode about John Forrester and how he screwed up bicycling for half a century in this country. Single-handedly did it.
All right, I'll have to check this out.
Yeah, and they did a much better job of chronologuing what happened with him than I did in my podcast.
Okay, I'll check that out. All right, you're bicycling down a 25 mile per hour, 2-lane, opposing traffic. Traffic's running in both directions, urban street, and there are no shoulders and no parking lanes. A car driver behind you refuses to pass you, and you can see that a line of cars is backing up behind them. What do you do?
If there's a line of cars, I will, sooner or later, I will pull over and let them go by.
Yeah.
If there's just one or two cars and I'm going close to the speed limit, let them stew in it for a while.
Okay. Okay.
But that's where vehicular cycling comes in.
Okay.
That's where you want to drive your bike like it's a car.
Yeah.
Take the lane.
Yes.
And you can't. It's important to take the lane in those situations because if you leave enough space for them to pass, you're going to get buzzed, and that's dangerous.
Yeah. So tell me about your involvement with the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition.
At one time they were the one organization that looked out for our interests in this town. There were two organizations really. There were the anarchists at Critical Mass,
right,
and then there were some people went back and forth like I did between both groups.
Okay,
and then there was the Bicycle Coalition where you had a membership and meetings, and they advocated for bicycle amenities in the city,
right,
and infrastructure, and back in the mid '90s there was nothing,
right,
and it was a really nice group because you would write to them and you'd say something like, I would like to have bike lanes on Valencia Street.
Right.
And Dave, who was the executive director of this, says, well, why don't you start a committee? It's like, oh, you want me to do it? Oh, okay. And that was how it worked. And my friend Mary, God rest her soul, ran that committee. And we got bike lanes, and we used the heft of the Bicycle Coalition and their connections in government to make our visions come true. And it's still a great group. Nowadays things are a little more splintered. The Bicycle Coalition is one group, and then there's other groups that are sort of straddle the distance between biking and other transportation and housing. It all sort of urban planning. Also, a lot of people look at the city and say we need to have a whole new paradigm for how cities are planned.
Right.
Not just bicycles, but also housing and transit, and how do people get around, because everybody can't drive and have a city that works. It's just not sustainable. You end up with gridlock.
Yes. Very true. Very true.
So there's other groups now around, and things have splintered a little bit, but we're making progress.
So tell me how things changed in San Francisco over the past 30 years for the bicycle.
30 years ago, I used to get things thrown at me when I rode my bike.
Yeah.
Get on the sidewalk, people would yell, or get a car. And I'd get buzzed. You get the punishment buzz.
Yep.
And honking at it all the time. People just didn't get it. Move over. Even old ladies would. Nothing against old ladies. I'm an old man myself, but they would open their window and say something you couldn't hear because they were in a car, and you see their fist shaking, and you can't talk back to them because by the time you do, they're gone. It's very frustrating. Now things have come along a lot. There's a lot of protected bike lanes and bike routes through the city. It's not anywhere near perfect, and we're having a second backlash from drivers now because during the pandemic, a lot of streets were closed. I'd like to take you on a ride down some of the closed streets today, but a lot of streets were closed. People began to like them, bicyclists and pedestrians, and they became permanent. And there's these slow streets in the neighborhoods, so people during the pandemic could come out on the street and talk to their neighbors at a distance from each other.
Right.
And it promoted neighborhoods like mine where people never really knew each other. All of a sudden, there was a community formed around in the street, and it was just beautiful the way things worked out. So that's happened. There's also a reaction to that because people have to slow down and they can't drive on the slow streets unless they live there, and they feel like people just don't like change. It's not the city that they grew up in, and they want it to be the same as ever it was. And basic windshield perspective on the world.
So tell me about the windshield perspective.
Well, I drive sometimes. My wife has a car.
Okay.
And I hate the person I become when I get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
I get aggressive. Even when I take a breath, I try to relax. It's not pleasant to drive. I mean, I love to drive down to LA.
Right.
I like to just get on Interstate 5 and go 90 miles an hour, and it's a great ride, and go to the rest stops and eat at McDonald's and or go to I love that. But driving in San Francisco is so headache inducing. It's just awful. And everybody who's driving feels the same, and everybody is angry at each other, and I get angry at myself because I don't want to be that person.
Yes.
And what am I talking about? Where did we start?
Windshield perspective.
Oh yeah. So the windshield perspective is like you're behind the wheel, and it's not real outside there.
Yeah.
There's a pedestrian crossing the street, but it's basically just an animation in a video game.
Yeah.
When you're behind the wheel, and it's different when you're on a bike and the wind is in your face, and you can hear people talking on the sidewalk as you ride through, and you're not isolated in a middle box. And I think that it does something to your mind, being in isolated in a box.
I agree.
And life is what is real is, I'm not saying it's any less real, and some people have to drive. I drive sometimes myself, and some people can't ride a bike. I understand some very small portion of the society can't ride a bike.
Yep.
But I think people tend to blow things out of proportion because they invested in a car. They invested a lot of money, and they were sold this image of freedom.
Yep.
Of riding across the Golden Gate Bridge or down Highway 1 is what they always use, or somewhere out in Arizona down a 2-lane road.
Right.
They don't talk about being, circling the block looking for a parking spot and having the person in front of you steal the spot that you were just about to take, and the fists starting to clench, and that's. Don't get me started. You already did.
Yeah. All right, let's go for a ride. I'm gonna mount up the phones.
All right.
And so that's going to wrap up the final part of my interview with the original bike podcaster, Jon Winston. In the next episode of Tell Me About Your Bike, I'll be interviewing Brian and Paxton, the founders of Caledonia Bike Works, the newest bike shop in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. Subscribe now to Tell Me About Your Bike so you don't miss our conversation. If there's someone in your life who loves bikes and loves podcasts, please send them a link to this show and share it on social media. If you want to share a story about your bike and the adventures that you've taken on it, send me an email. My email address is friendwes@mac.com. You'll find it in the show notes too. As DJ Pseudonymous, I host the radio show Radio Eclectica on WMMT 88.7 FM, broadcasting out of Whitesburg, Kentucky on Fridays from noon to 2 p.m. Eastern. You can stream Radio Eclectica on WMMT's website, wmmt.org. I'll include a link in the show notes. In addition to interviews with Appalachian musicians, I take deep dives into a different aspect of music each week. It could be an album, a genre, a producer, an era, or even a technique. And I also host the podcast Tell Me About NC, a celebration of Terry Riley's minimalist musical masterpiece In C, which has inspired generations of musicians since it was written in 1964. If you enjoy the music of The Who, Steve Reich, Philip Glass, Brian Eno, Zoe Keating, King Crimson, and Sigur Rós, then you're gonna love NC. You can find Tell Me About NC on all major podcasting platforms. So, keep the rubber side down and keep rolling. Cheers, y'all! Copyright Rambling Ukulele Productions 2026. Most rights reserved.